Hey folks, Big CT here, and you know, do I have bad luck in picking movies and such? But you know why I say that, people? The reason why I say it is because I seen another horrible film. Yes, I recently saw just tonight I saw a free screening of Michael Bay's latest masterpiece, Pain&Gain. Now, before I rip this movie a new one, I'm going to give the positive first. Tony Shalhoub plays the guy who gets ripped off. He does a pretty good job. The Rock's charisma is good, but it can only go so far. And honestly, that was it. That's it. There's nothing here in this movie that just pissed me off. The unlikable protagonist, maybe that was the whole thing. But yeah, I just didn't care for this movie at all. The characters were not likable. I didn't really care for any about the main character, the no characters, everyone else. I didn't care. I didn't get angry at them. I didn't feel sad. I just felt annoyance. And it just kept building up more and more and more and more and more and more to, okay. All right. I'm getting way off track here, but this movie is just completely horrible. Again, The Rock tries his best, but he can only do so much. And it's funny. It's really funny because here's the quote right here of Michael Bay talking about The Rock. You know, he says, "Well, director Michael Bay also wished The Rock well from the red carpet. Dwayne's hurt tonight. He was pushing it too hard. He needs to grow up and start wrestling 300-pound men." Michael Bay telling people to someone to grow up. This is the same guy who directed Transformers 2, who had, you know what? Screw it. I'll just show you the clip.
I am directly below the enemy scrotum.
Yeah, this guy who directed that scene said he wants to grow up. In fact, he directed this entire film full of nothing but bodily fluid humor, which is so juvenile. And honestly, very few people in the movie laugh. It was just gross out laughs. All of his so-called humor or what have you didn't even show up. In fact, all the good stuff is in the trailer. And if you call that good stuff. Okay, Pain&Gain. The story is that this person who's a personal trainer works out trying to get the American dream by stealing it from this rich guy or what have you. This guy who is a self-made man. Now, the person who did this, the man who robbed him, let's see, it was Mark Wahlberg's character, Danny Lucho. It it's based on a real story. Fine. You know what? It is sad. It's just terrible. Okay, let me get back to the plot. Danny Lugo, bodybuilder who works at the Suntan gym, his friend Anthony Mackie, who I think isn't he going to be the Falcon? I think he is. I think he's going to. Yeah, Anthony Mackie. This guy who's going. The guy Anthony Mackie who's going to play the Falcon, and he's in this piece of garbage. Yeah. Okay, he works with Dane Lugo, Mark Wahlberg's character, worked with his bodybuilding friend, Adrian Doorball, with his played by Anthony Mackie. He was sick of living a poor life, so Danny Lugo concocts a plan to kidnap Victor Kershaw, Tony Shalhoub, the only good actor in the film, but then again, he does the best he can, but it's just, But anyway, he's a regular at the gym, and he's a rich, spoiled businessman, and extort money from him by means of torture, because that's nice. And with the help of recently released criminal Paul Doyle, Dwayne Johnson, The Sun Jim gang successfully gets Kershaw to sign over his finances. But when Kershaw survives the attempted murder by the gang, he hires a private investigator, Ed DuBois, and Harris, to catch the criminals after the Miami Police Department fails to do so. Yeah, you know, it's supposedly will be interesting, and I honestly think if a better director, a better writer, I'm sorry that this film completely falls off of what have you. It just feels terrible, and this is supposedly his dream project of Michael Bay, and it's terrible. The characters are just completely flat. I mean, Mark Wahlberg, who's been in so much better than this. In fact, he could play comedic roles. He was in The Other Guys, a really funny movie with Will Ferrell, who I don't think is that funny. Him have really good chemistry. They make it work. The Rock, he was Dwayne Johnson. He was The Rundown. That was funny. In fact, he's in another successful movie this year, G.I. Joe. And his scenes with those guys were much better with this. This film, this film, Pain and Gain, is just terrible. It's one of the worst films out here, and yet, I'm sorry, but I just can't anything else. In fact, there's some supposed controversy and such as Police Sergeant Miami-Dade and Police Sergeant Felix Jim has stated that you're talking about real people and this is a political case, especially when you're talking about murder victims. There are innocent victims. Susanna Garriga, whose brother and his girlfriend were disbanded by the gang, said she didn't want an American partner to survive with the killers. That Sue sympathized with the killers. Oh, you won't worry about that because I don't sympathize with any of them. Honestly, at this point, these characters, I don't care for them at all. In fact, I wish they all can burn in a fire at this point. I don't sympathize with them. They are completely horrible people. The characters play, I don't know, maybe it was just the best way they could play them. But again, Mark Wahlberg was definitely miscast at this. Same as Dwayne Johnson. All these people were just miscast with terrible scripts. A terrible script was written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. These two guys, honestly, what did they wear? I'm looking at it right now, and this is crazy. Here's the supposed filmography with this. They have The Life and Death of Peter Sellers, which I watched. It was pretty good. The Chronicles of Narnia, a DVD I liked. I mean, mostly work on the Chronicles of Narnia and Captain America, the first World Avenger, and they're going to look into Thor: The Dark World and Winter Soldier. This Pain and Gain. I don't get it. Did they just look at this and said, you know what, we're gonna put so much bad humor, bodily function, try to be so juvenile at this point. This screenplay and such. Did they look at the story, the real life story about the Sun Jim gang or what have you, and say, you know what this thing is? I know it's a ridiculous story, but we need to put bodily function humor and the shit jokes and dildo jokes. Yeah, just because that is what it deserves. It's embarrassing. And I wanted to walk out of this thing. I wanted to just say, screw it, and leave, because this movie, I watched this thing for free, and I feel ripped off. This film ripped me off of 2 hours of my time. This ripped me off every millisecond of time. I could have been doing anything else with my life. I could be watching paint dry, and I can say, wow, this was I could say, wow, this was so much entertaining and everything else. Something more entertaining than Pain and Gain. In fact, you know what? I'll take back my review of Oblivion. I'm taking it back right now. Because, honestly, this thing, Pain and Gain, was absolutely garbage. Garbage. Nothing. There's nothing positive here. The acting was terrible. The screenwriting, terrible. Jokes weren't even funny. And all in all, it's completely and utterly forgettable. All that's left is it's just, no, take away the game part, and all you're left with is pain. Pain, because this movie is painful. It's painful to watch. It's painful to remember. And it's just, hopefully, my deepest and darkest hopes. Like, I really hope this film just bombs so badly, completely gets destroyed by media. I want this thing to completely collapse upon itself, and I hope that Michael Bay never gets work again as a director. Yes, I don't want him as a director at all. He deserves scorn, and this movie, I don't like to do this. I don't want to be ranting and all this type of stuff. I would like to see some positive in the movie, and there are some small glimpses of positivity, but there's not. But that's it. The small glimpse of it. There's nothing really here. At least with something like Oblivion, you're like, hey, you like the production value, you like the everything else. You can have that, fine. This movie, there's nothing left. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Anyway, it's Dukesy T here. Peace and love, and hopefully my next time I do a review, it'll be a lot more positive and a lot more exciting. Hopefully. Not exciting, but something that's a lot more happier and can leave me with a better taste in my mouth. Peace.